Welcome back to another episode of Thinking That Matters. I'm Elizabeth Mahusai, your podcast host, and I am here with a fellow Leadership McKinney classmate. Greatest class ever.
Greatest class ever, yeah.
This is Luke Gajary. Did I say it correctly?
You did, yeah.
Yes.
I've heard it all, though, so it's
Rhymes
fine.
with Safari,
That's it.
in case you want to know. So, Luke, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, so that we can dive into our conversation today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This is a very cool setup and love what you're doing and thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm excited to have you.
yeah, Luke Gajary, rhymes with Safari. I work currently at the McKinney Economic Development Corporation. I've been there 3 years, do all things digital marketing, social media, email campaigns, advertising, all that stuff. And I really, I've kind of vacillated between ministry. I've been a youth pastor. I've been like a creative pastor. I've done marketing for nutrition companies, nonprofits. I've realized I'm a serial communicator, whether that's speaking on a stage or whether that's creating video content. Communication is something that's near and dear to my heart. So
I know you had mentioned to me that you're just really passionate about communication, specifically storytelling. At what point in your life did you begin to recognize that you have a skill, a gifting there?
So in school, I was terrible at math. I was homeschooled, first of all. And then second of all, I was terrible at math, and I really gravitated towards English, writing, reading, that kind of stuff. And I think I was maybe third or fourth grade. I wrote like a historical fiction novel. I say it like it was a little, like a kid's thing.
Third grade
on
level,
like the Revolutionary War and like a boy going through the war with his family, like that kind of thing. And my mom and some other friends were saying, "Oh, this is really good. Like, you're a good writer." And
Sure.
So that planted a seed that like Luke is a good writer. So I started writing. I actually had a goal. One of my bucket list goals was to write and publish a book by the time I'm 30. And so I actually ended up doing that when I was 27. I started working on a book and wrote and self-published a book by the time I turned 30 on the power of storytelling.
Oh, that's the title of the book?
Well, it's called Tell It Well.
Oh,
yeah. And it's all
I
about
like
like
that
telling your
too.
stories.
Yes.
So that's out there. And then the other thing was I always was the guy in our family holding the video camera. So we had a camcorder, of course, back growing up in the 80s, 90s, we had those older camcorders, and then eventually got a digital camera. And I just always loved capturing moments. Like you can catch so much emotion and story with video. And I know you love pictures, photography is super powerful, but I just always gravitated towards
the video,
the written word and the video side of things. So as a kid, those things started to kind of pop up, and you don't say, "Oh, one day I'm going to do marketing and communications, or I'm going to speak from a stage and do consulting." But you could start seeing those kind of flare-ups of those things.
Something that you said that I don't want us to step over is that after your parents and friends of parents were reading your revolutionary historical novel, they said, "You're a good writer." And it's interesting, you sat right there and you said, "Luke's a good writer."
Yeah.
And it speaks so much to the power of what adults who speak into the lives of children, how impactful our words are.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that you said that, because, well, I don't know, maybe someone listening or watching, they have children right now, and it's a great challenge for us as parents to really be thoughtful of our words. Children?
Yeah, 3 kids, 10-year-old girl, Bella, 7-year-old son, Caleb, and about to be 5-year-old daughter, Charlotte.
I love it. And knowing how powerful that was for you when you were younger, what are some things that even right now with having, 3 very different seasons for your children, do you find yourself having to be mindful of in speaking to them?
100%, and that cuts both ways, right? So like people told me I was a good writer, but we know people who've grown up their whole life hearing you're never going to amount to anything.
Yes.
You're a terrible kid, and that plants those seeds. I'm a terrible kid. I grew up to be a terrible person. But it also goes the other way. So someone says something positive to you. So we try to reframe. We have one of our children, I won't say who, but one of our children, Dr. James Dobson, wrote a book called The Strong-Willed Child. We have a strong-willed child, and we work really hard to reframe the conversations of "you're so stubborn, you're so bossy," to say like, "Wow, you have great leadership in you," or one day you're going to be a CEO or a lawyer, or you're going to have, your people really like to listen to you, or you really like to talk. Like, we try to frame things in a way that aren't like, and I'm not going to say I'm 100% perfect all the time, but to plant those seeds to say, like, what you think about is what you gravitate towards. And so what am I speaking into my kids or the people around me that is causing them to gravitate towards positive trends in their life?
I think it's so incredibly important. And, the same is true thinking children. I mean, a leader who's leading people, what the leader says to the people in their organization truly matters, because people grab hold of those things and they live into it, be it positive or negative.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. Now, you said that you kind of vacillated between ministry and corporate. So what led you to want to do ministry?
So I grew up in a very small conservative church in the Northeast in Pennsylvania. I'm originally from New York and kind of bounced around up there. We moved to Texas when I was 17, and it's the Bible Belt, right? So there's a lot of great churches. And when I was 17, those are formative years. You really begin to stop walking in just what your parents told you your whole life, and you start to find your own identity, whether that's of faith or just as a person, or your friend groups start to change. And so I really leaned into my faith and got much more serious and adopted it as my own, went from walking in, just what my parents taught me into really making it my own experience, my own journey. And as a result of that, felt like I was called into communicating the truth of the word of the Bible into people's lives. And so that path led me into going to a small ministry school in Dallas, and then went through a 3rd-year kind of internship training program, and then went on staff with a missions organization. Shortly after that, I got married. About 3 years of that, 3 years into that missions experience, I got married and realized, wow, this ministry is great, but both the travel schedule and the income level is not a whole lot to begin to start a family. You think about having kids and spending time with your wife and all this, and it just was not a good work-life balance. And so I took some online courses, got really educated in the areas of graphic design and marketing and storytelling through video, and really kind of formalized some of the stuff I already knew, and got a job at a large nonprofit doing that, and then with a nutrition company. Eventually went back into youth ministry, next gen ministry, and kind of creative pastoring at a church. So it's been like a kind of a back and forth in between those two worlds.
Well, and I appreciate that. I think about the different roles, right? Whether in ministry or even in that nonprofit or nutrition company where you were working. What have you felt have been some overlap in terms of things that have served you well, right, on both sides of that? Because some people would think there's, one could not impact the other necessarily. Yeah. So what have you seen have been some really cool, like, I learned this in ministry and it so helped me in corporate, or vice versa? That's
a really good question. So I think at the end of it, and I said this to somebody at one point when I was changing jobs, I said, I fall in this millennial generation, and we're the ones that started to not just chase a paycheck, we started to chase purpose with what we did. And so I've started to realize I want to work, whether that's a nutrition company or whether that's right now, local municipality with the city of McKinney, I want to work somewhere where I make a difference. I'm passionate about helping people with a tangible, real difference in their life. And so sometimes that looks like communicating a message on a stage, or sitting and doing some pastoral counseling with a young couple, or, creating a campaign that's going to attract people into an area with better quality of life, or selling them a nutritional product that's going to give them more energy, right? So like anything I've done in my career has been something that's going to impact somebody's life in some way.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's something that's always been kind of a common thread in what I've done.
That's actually, that's interesting. So when we were talking earlier, I was asking you about limiting beliefs that if you look back on your career development thus far, and you think about what are some limiting beliefs that you can now pinpoint that were truly, they could have held you back had you not have addressed them. Talk to me a little bit about this whole career piece that we're talking about here, because I think what you just said is leads right into that.
Yeah, and there's a couple limiting beliefs. One of them I feel like I've pretty much overcome, and now I'm trying to help other people walk through it. This career one, I wish I could tell you I'm at the top of the mountain and I'm championing this. It's every day almost. I have to kind of get up and look at myself in the mirror and remind myself of this idea that for a long time I thought that a calling and an assignment were the same thing. Like, I'm called to do this. So I'm called into ministry. I'm going to preach and teach and write books and do all this. And that's what I'm going to do until the day that I die, this one thing. But I started to realize there's a difference between a calling and an assignment. Your calling will stay the same. You have a purpose for your life. Everyone's born with a unique identity, a unique fingerprint, and meant to make a unique impact on the world. That's not going to change. But what will change is the assignments that you live that calling out in. And so, yes, we have one purpose, one calling, one thing, our life, a mark we will leave on the earth, right? But that will manifest itself in different ways throughout our lives. And I had to really come to grips with that idea, because I would feel like a failure of like, oh, I'm not in ministry right now, so I'm like not walking
somehow
in my
not
calling.
in your
Right. I'm not functioning into what I was really made to do. Or if I would be in a marketing role in a more corporate environment, it's like, well, I'm very fulfilled in my career and I'm having a lot of fun and I'm making good money, but I'm not walking in my calling. Or you flip it. Like, if I'm in ministry and I'm not doing anything with marketing, I'm like, well, I'm in ministry, but the money's not great. And it's not like, so there was kind of a restlessness and an uneasiness no matter where I was, until I started to realize, like, no, like, there's one common thread here, and it's gonna have different appearances in different seasons of my life.
I love that. And, a visual that you gave me before we started recording, you were saying, is this thought process that, career was like this upward,
like a bar chart, just going up all the time.
Just going up. But as I was listening to you, in my mind's eye, what I was envisioning is that, I'm a science person, right? So I could sort of think in bar charts, and spreadsheets and all the things. But, I think about time and age, right? On our X and Y.
Yeah.
And, we want to think that the career is going this way, but in effect, oftentimes it's more jagged. It could be up, it could be down, it could be back up, it could be sort of down. But at the end of the day, the calling, this piece that you're talking about, that you're calling, so the points are the assignments, but the calling is what goes through the middle of those assignments, right?
Yeah.
And that at the end of your life, you can look back, and whether you were high or low, you're living into that calling, but it's going to look different in different places. So it's funny, as you were talking, I was like, literally, I was seeing this in my mind. And I think what you're speaking is so relevant to the listening audience.
Yeah.
Who, there's this sense of what happened to the time in our country where people stayed at the same job 30 years.
Yeah.
Where now that's so rare.
So rare, yeah.
It's so rare.
Yeah.
And so it's that internal tension that you were describing, I think, is something that people can really relate to.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you also saying that you want to feel as though you're at the mountaintop going, I figured it out.
Right.
But
I'm definitely very much preaching to myself in this conversation.
Yes,
as a reminder.
for sure. But I'm also thinking too that you still allowed yourself to change assignments. What have you had to tell yourself to be willing to step into a new assignment?
One of the big ones is that an income level is not necessarily an indicator of a success in your calling.
Talk to me about that.
So
Tell me more.
Just because you're doing something you're supposed to be doing doesn't mean you will be financially successful all the time. Now, I'd like to say that with walking your calling is going to mean awesome financial success all the time. But the truth is, we do walk through valleys. We will go through hard situations. We'll lose a job. We'll have different financial circumstances that kind of overwhelm us. And it can be easy to feel like in today's culture of success and materialism that like, wow, I must be missing something because I'm struggling financially, or because I'm not making as much money as I did 5 years ago in that other job. And again, that's just something I've walked through, to say like, well, I made a lot more money back there, but I'm actually being just as successful right here because I'm walking in the purpose in this assignment.
Okay, so I think that's so, well, first of all, that's just such a great point that I believe in our culture, we've attached the amount of money we make to perceived success.
Yes, exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
And that there's so many challenges
Yeah.
to that. I can tell you're going to say something. Say it.
No. I've had, again, just that's where I've had to wrestle with it to say, like, am I chasing just making another dollar or a new project that's going to produce more income, or am I chasing success on a monetary value, or am I chasing success just as a wholeness of what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, for example, if I started a business that made $1 million a year, I mean, that'd be awesome, right? But
Yeah.
What if in the process I had to be gone all the time, travel, never see my kids, my wife leaves me, takes the kids? Like, that's not success.
That's not success.
Right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
so, like, there is defining what is success for me in this season. What does it mean to be walking in my calling, not feeling like I'm stumbling through a fog in life, but that I'm firing on all cylinders and I'm walking in exactly who Luke is supposed to be right now. And is what I'm doing feeding that? Is what I'm doing supporting that lifestyle? Or am I just chasing a bunch of money? And I have like 1,000 different irons in the fire. I'm always got some side hustle going on. I love my job with the city of McKinney. I love traveling and speaking. Like, don't get me wrong, I am like a king of side hustles, but I think there's something to be said for saying, are you just doing what you're doing chasing a dollar, or are you doing what you're doing to fulfill the purpose that's on your life?
Yeah, that's man, there's so many things that are going through my mind right now, but as someone who can relate to maybe I wouldn't say necessarily side hustle, but a lot of irons in the fire.
Right.
I can very much relate to that. And oftentimes, you know, and I'm sure you probably hear this as well, like, how are you doing all the things?
Right.
But when you're walking in your purpose, there is this, I call it supernatural stretch.
Yeah.
Right? It's, you know, it is a supernatural stretch. And so much so that that's one of the things I speak to myself every day is I want the Lord to give me a supernatural stretch of time, energy, patience, focus, resources, and recall. Like, that is a daily thing that I say to myself.
That's so
but
good.
for you, what I'm hearing is that your purpose fuels the side things that you're doing.
Yes.
So as a result, they bring you joy, and you know, it's not that you're just pursuing to make another dollar as much as that you're wanting to pursue living into the purpose for which you were placed here.
Exactly. Right. And every season is going to look different. We're all going to have different moments and different seasons. But the way that you talk about that supernatural stress, it almost is like, or stretch, I'm sorry. Sometimes it feels like there's supernatural stress, but the way that I feel is that when I'm not walking in that and things are not coming naturally or easy, it's almost like when you're trying to fight someone underwater or like run underwater. It's like you can't, things are just slower. There's more resistance.
Sluggish.
Yeah. And then when you're walking in that identity, not that everything's going to be perfect, but when you're walking in your identity as who you're supposed to be as a person and not just like what you're supposed to be doing, then things come. It's like getting out of the water and running on land.
Yeah.
It's just, there's still resistance. It's still work, right? You still wake up every day and have to choose to be who you say you're going to be. But there's a little bit more of a natural grace on it and a little bit more of a natural execution to what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that and value that so much, because I think people can get really stuck where they do feel like they're slugging underwater. It's taking so long to get to where they're trying to go or to accomplish what they're wanting to accomplish. And they truly feel like they're drowning. And so it is about to part of what I'm taking from some of the things that you're saying is that part of how they get unstuck is really anchoring their mindset on what is my purpose? Do we have clarity there?
Yes, yeah.
Right. And then recognizing, again, going back to your calling and the assignment is not the same thing all the time.
Right, exactly.
That there will be shifts and changes, that there will be ups and downs, right? We should anticipate them.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, you're now taking, or not now, you have been and are currently doing digital marketing and social media management. And I mean, what do you say to the person who's listening that goes, well, that sounds really good for you, but I'm not creative?
Yeah, that took me a while to kind of get over myself. I said that is the limiting belief that I have conquered. And now I'm kind of on a mission to break that off of people in a sense, because I'd hear this my whole life, right? Like, Luke, you're so creative. You're so creative. And I think people think that there's this magical gift that some people have and then some people don't. Or like there's a few niche creative people that have some special Kool-Aid that no one else has. And we drink the Kool-Aid and then we get these creative superpowers and everyone else has to go do non-creative stuff.
That's right.
And I've heard it so many times, it makes me so mad. And I know the heart is good, but people come to me and say, that you wrote that book or you created that video or you told that story so well. I just wish I could be creative. And I'm like, you can. Everyone is a creative person. And I kind of have this soapbox, if you'll let me get on a soapbox
okay,
for a
do
second.
it. I want to hear
so,
it.
like, I think that I've heard it said before, people have said, when you look most like God is when you're generous. And I think there's maybe some truth to that, because God so loved the world that he gave his son, right? John 3:16. So there's some truth to that idea of like when we give things, we are mirroring things that God did. But I would argue that I actually think you look most like God when you are creative. What was the first thing God did? He took nothing and made something.
Yeah.
He made grass and animals and people and he said it was good. And when we're creating something, it doesn't matter what that is. It doesn't have to be a digital thing. It could be a real thing. It could be a conversation, could be a written word, could be imagery, could be underwater basket weaving. Whatever it is, you have something to contribute. I also think that's why social media is so damaging, because it turns you into a doom scrolling zombie where you're consuming content.
Versus creating.
And you can use social media to create content.
I agree.
That's a good thing. And I do that myself. But it can also become, the scales can become unbalanced to where all you're doing is 11 o'clock at night, scrolling through your phone, just consuming, watching stories, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But it just makes the scales tip off to say like, well, I actually need to be creative. I need to express myself. And I think a lot of people that think they're not creative actually just don't put any time, thought, or energy into what's in their heart. If you have something in your heart and you just give it some time, give it some attention, give it some energy, you can make something out of nothing. You can be creative.
That is so, I love that because, and I can relate to it because Fred and I met in high school.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's had a camera in his hand from the time that I met him.
Yeah, and he can do incredible things with that camera.
Yes, he can. And then when we went on to college and he was taking Photoshop and different classes, to see the creativity of what he would do artistically, right? Digitally, was just amazing. Or when he makes origami or whatever it is, right? And I can remember saying for years, I'm not creative. Like Fred's creative, I'm more scientific, or whatever it is that I would say, right?
Yeah.
And it used to be a really strong limiting belief in my mind, and part of it was rooted in my need for perfection. Right. I had in my mind that if something wasn't perfect, then that clearly is an example of I'm not creative, or I'm not creative enough, or whatever the case is. But all that to say, the older I get, the more I've learned that creativity can be expressed in so many ways.
Right.
And what have you found, like, where do you think people tend to hang on, this is what it looks like to be creative, thus I'm not creative?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it gets categorized into something in the arts, right?
Yeah.
I think women in the kitchen, not just women, men or women in the kitchen, so creative. The kitchen, I cook all the time. I am the main cook in our family. And to me, cooking,
it's creativity.
It's an avenue
totally.
for creativity.
Yes.
Food is just a canvas. I get to paint, and then you eat it when you're done. I love to cook because
I do too.
Now that would not get categorized as a creative action, right? That's just feeding my kids. But it's something that is an opportunity for me to express creativity, especially there's just so many great opportunities, and now we have all these great shows on Netflix that show the power of food. So the other thing that people get hung up on is what you just said, the perfectionism piece, is that you spend so much time obsessing over an idea and being nervous to share it with the world because it hasn't reached your standard of perfection. And I heard someone say something like this. I'm going to maybe butcher it a little bit, but 80% done and shared with the world is far superior to 100% done but never shared because you're constantly nitpicking it.
That you need to say that again.
Yeah, like and again, I don't know. I'm maybe saying it a little differently, but
it's okay. Say it again.
80% done and shared with the world is far superior to 100% done but never shared because you're just nitpicking it to
Oh my
infinity.
goodness, that so speaks. It so speaks to me.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say to that too, because as an author, what I had to learn, because that would be my problem, right?
Yep.
I would want it to be perfect before
just the
shared.
constant draft editing and self-critiquing.
But of course, again, the older I've gotten, I'm like, you know what? This is why God made editors.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I can submit it to my editor. Her name's Sherry. And, you know, now I will have to say the first time that it came back with all the, it might as well be the red pen.
Yeah.
I'm like, big gulp.
Yeah.
You know, but it's funny, my most recent work, I mean, I was like, okay, done. Like I didn't overthink it.
Right.
Because
So how much time went, how many projects between your first book and where you are now? How many books is that?
So,
or Bible studies?
Well, the first Bible study that I wrote was in 2006. Okay. Now the thing that helped me with writing the Bible studies is I would have to write and share like because I was pretty much teaching a women's Bible study.
Right.
So much like, in the pastorate, you've got to prepare and then you got to preach. Like you can't overthink it. Eventually you got to get up there and share it.
You got to share it and just say something.
That's right. That helped me tremendously.
Wow.
Although I was a teacher, right? I mean, I was teaching high schoolers chemistry. So I had to get up there and teach. I couldn't overthink it. And sometimes I did really well. And sometimes I'd finish a class and go, well, that didn't go the way I thought it would go. But when I went to go and publish formally my first book, I spent 5 years.
Wow.
Just like, what's it going to do? How's it going to? And part of it was just lack of clarity.
Yeah.
But after I went through the process and I got the first one published, then the second one came 2 years later. Then I took some time off to make a career change. And now I've done 2 in this year.
Wow. Yeah.
Because of conquering that.
Yeah.
One, I am creative. I'm just creative in a different way.
Yeah.
In this case, of my husband. And I can outsource things where I'm not strong.
And did that perfectionism voice that said it's not done yet, did that get quieter as your book, or is it still there and you just have to kind of push through it?
It definitely is quieter.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's also still there.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, if I'm not careful, I can allow that voice to be louder. And so I have to keep it in check.
Yeah.
And so we're in Leadership McKinney together, right? Yep. And, what I've learned about myself is anytime I'm in a new environment where I'm learning, I'm connecting, I love connecting with people, I have to be on guard that I don't try to put on what I call a show, right? That's perfection, right? Where I have to have this, I have it all together. That's my Achilles heel. That's my pride. I will easily vocalize it because I know that it is a real deal. So I do have to make sure that I keep it in check. And that's where writing has been so helpful for me because I can be vulnerable in that space. And that's some of the feedback that I get when I write and then when I teach is that I've learned transparency and vulnerability is incredibly important for storytelling. Yeah. Right? The communication piece that you're so good at. Yeah. That's people can connect with the fact that we're all imperfect.
And authenticity is like a new almost currency. Like
Ooh,
authenticity gets a foot in the door with people and provides a platform for you to share. Especially as we're getting into millennials and Gen Z moving into more leadership roles in the workforce, they really value that transparency and honesty. I mean, gone are the days of this perfect boss in a suit that sits in his ivory tower and has his life together. They want to see somebody who's struggling or had a rough night with the kids and didn't sleep last night. And they want to see somebody who bickers with their spouse sometimes or is having a hard time coming up with an idea or bombs a presentation every once in a while. Like that actually buys a lot of respect in these other audiences.
I love that you say authenticity is in many ways a new currency. That's a great way to it's a great way to think about it. Because it also attaches value, right? Like we think of money and value. The more money you have, the more value you have. So when you think about authenticity as a currency, there's a certain psychological value that we place on it. So I think that's just a great, that's just a really good connector. And I also believe, so speak to this as a storyteller, someone who loves and is passionate about communication. How do you leverage the currency of authenticity to connect with your audience?
Well, it depends on the audience, but I always try to weave in stories about my life and my family so that people feel like they're connected with a person. Now, also, and you probably do this when you communicate, you'll find stories in the news that are relevant, or you find something that I'm giving a talk in a couple of days, and I found a news article that like lines up exactly with what I'm trying to communicate as an illustration. But I don't want those to be the only images that people have when they hear my talk. I want them to see the person behind the idea. I want them to get to know my family. I want them to understand things I've struggled with. There is a threshold because you're also trying to, if you're influencing people, they need to see you as a leader. So you do have to host a level of, like, on some level, you have to have your life together to a degree, right? You can't be a complete hot mess all the time and expect anybody to respect what you're saying.
Exactly.
So
I agree with
there
that.
are boundaries and there are ways you have to kind of navigate some of those conversations and understand the audience. I'm not going to get up at a city council meeting or a board meeting and tell them that I just fought with my wife 10 minutes ago on the way here if I'm trying to present a proposal for a project or something. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of know those nuances.
Appropriateness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's something to be said about just bringing who you are to the table and trusting that people are going to be okay with that.
Yeah, I value it greatly because I know that I have to put in the work myself to be it.
Yeah.
And to be mindful, maybe it'd be the way to say it, to
Yeah.
be mindful of it. So I love that you talked about career and assignment, or calling and assignment, not the same thing, and you're still working on that limiting
Still
belief.
working on that.
That few people are creative. You feel like you've conquered that limiting belief. When you think, because I believe my listeners and those who watch, they would want me to ask you, as someone who really specializes in digital marketing, social media management, what is maybe a prevalent limiting belief that you hear often around? Because what I hear is it's so overwhelming, I can't keep up with it, I don't know how it works, or I think I figured it out, and then, Facebook changes things.
Yeah.
What is at least one limiting belief that you recognize is an issue, and maybe give us a practical way to overcome it when we think about marketing?
Yeah, or like building a brand. For someone listening to this wanting to say, like, how do I gain that authenticity in the marketplace via social media channels or anything like that? It's actually what you kind of just described. It's the analysis paralysis of where do I start? I don't want to do it because I don't know between YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, where to even start. Where do I throw LinkedIn to this? Where do I use text posts? Where do I use video posts? What are image carousels? Are those still a thing? Do I pay to boost the post? It's just becomes so paralyzing. So it's like, and I can't afford to hire somebody to do it, so I'm just not going to do it. I think it goes back to that same concept we talked about earlier, the 80% done. If you can get like 70, 80% dialed in on what you know you're going to talk about, just pick a platform that your audience is going to be on and just start doing stuff on it.
Yeah.
I think we get, because the methods are going to change. The platforms will change. There'll be a new social platform in 2 months that will be the next new thing that none of us have ever even heard of right now. So
I hear Blue Sky's a thing.
Blue Sky, I don't even know.
Like,
Blue Sky's an animation studio in my world, but
I was like Fred was telling me about it.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a thing
sorry.
now. So you will never get ahead if you're just trying to keep up with platforms and methods. But if you can get your messaging down and then just start somewhere, pick one platform.
Yeah.
Pick LinkedIn, Facebook, Threads, Twitter. I don't care which one it is. Just decide which one best connects with your audience and start doing stuff on that platform 3 times a week, 5 times a week, and start creating content there. And then you'll graduate into adding more things in your portfolio and creating different types of content and getting comfortable taking photos, but just start producing and get your messaging out into the world on at least one place.
That's so good, because I can remember when, just back in the day, I remember when I finally joined Facebook. And I spent 19 years in the direct sales space.
Right.
And, for the last 10 years of it, it was a lot of online, I did 1,000+ Facebook lives, videos, et cetera.
Groups, all that.
but I had to get to that point where I'm not going to focus on 5 things. I'm going to focus on 1 or 2 things and just be consistent on those 1 or 2 platforms. I think that's so important. I think another question before we wrap this up that my audience would want to hear your answer to, what would be the signs that it's time to outsource social media and digital marketing?
Oh, that's a good question. If it is draining your energy away from your core competency in your business, and I don't have a number, if you can afford an extra $1,000 a month or something, like we could work out numbers and come up with a budget. But if you open your phone and it drains you, and then you have to take a client meeting in 20 minutes, and you're walking into that meeting fried and frustrated because you just spent 10 minutes trying to figure out a caption for your Facebook post, it might be time to bring in somebody, even if that somebody is ChatGPT, right? And just using ChatGPT as a marketing consultant of sorts. Now, don't use it to write your content because that's not authentic, but use it to help you create ideas or and graduate into different levels of outsourcing. One day you'll be so successful in your business that you have to hire a full-on marketing agency to build your website, film your content, produce your podcast. But right now, get a $20 a month ChatGPT account and start asking it to help you ideate your content or take little baby steps away. But again, I wish I had a better number or a black and white answer.
But I think that's good though. I think that at just the root level, once it gets to the point where it is exasperating you or it's creating high anxiety, it's draining you of your energy, and specifically it is hindering you from showing up into your calling with whatever your assignment is, that it's time to start looking at ways that you can delegate it.
And we'll all have bad days. And we all have to do stuff in our businesses or our organizations that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't ever do things you don't want to do.
Right, exactly.
But if it's a daily thing, every time you open that platform, you just want to throw your phone at the wall.
It's a good indication.
There's a good yellow flag
indication
there.
that it might be time to let it go.
Right.
Well, I have so enjoyed our conversation, and I definitely want to have you back on because I know we could delve into some other areas. But I always appreciate asking every single one of my guests, why do you believe it is important to cultivate thinking that matters?
I think so. We're all in life trying to produce fruit, whether that's earn income or create influence in our life. We want our lives to be good fruit. No one looks at an apple tree and says, I hope that has the nastiest, most sour, most worm-filled apples I've ever eaten. You look at an apple tree and you want it to have this lush, bright, vibrant fruit. We want our lives to look like that. Well, good fruit doesn't start at the branch level. It starts at the root. And the thinking is the root of our lives. And the fruit good fruit only comes from good thinking. And this goes back to what we said at the beginning of when these childhood thoughts are planted in you, those begin to grow into something. And that as a child, we have a lot of outside input. As an adult, sometimes we have to go seek out our own input, whether that's books we consume, music we listen to, things we watch on YouTube, or friends we hang around. Yeah. We have to get around the right inputs that are feeding into those thought roots that are then producing the fruit.
So good. We could have a whole conversation.
That's a whole other episode. Yeah.
Right. Because literally all I can see are the imaging of the brain, right? Where thoughts are taking root, where the neural pathways are developing in a person's brain. I absolutely love that we all want our lives to be or to produce good fruit. In order to produce good fruit, we need root thinking that serves us well. And guess what? We need to cultivate roots in order for a plant, a bush, a tree, whatever it is, to actually break through the soil and ultimately to grow in order to produce good fruit. So I'm so grateful. Tell people how they can connect with you, follow you, give them all of the, all of the ways in which they can stay connected.
Yeah, no, at Luke Gajary on pretty much all social media platforms. I know I said just to focus on one, but I'm on all of them. And then I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well, at Luke Gajary. And then creativedrive.org is a website where I put together some resources and have some content about this idea of cultivating creativity in your life.
That's a good podcast title right there.
I'll have
just
to get
saying.
on it. You get on your level here and get my podcast going.
I love it. Well, here's the some of my key takeaways, because I just want to make sure that the audience gets it. Your calling and the assignment are not always the same. Your calling stays the same. Your assignment can change.
Bingo, yeah.
That we're all creative. It's just a matter of finding where that creativity is.
100%.
And that our thinking is the root of the good fruit that we want to produce. So we want to cultivate thinking that matters so that we can live a life, we can build a business, we can produce fruit that truly matters.